always use a piece of a bit of foam or some bubble wrap. I always use that to put the model on to protect it so I don't do any damage. I'll just zoom this in for you a little bit, guys. So with the floor of the model, with all Hot Wheels, you've just got 8 screws. There's 2 in the back, 2 at the back of the sill, 2 at the front of the sill, and 2 in the front. So we're just going to remove those screws, and then the whole floor pan will come out. So as with my other builds, I recommend that you, if you haven't done this before, you can use this video as a reference, but you might also want to take some photos with your smartphone. And I also use plastic containers that have dividers in them, and I label all the parts, so even all the screws, I'll mark where they come from and each part, because they are slightly different throughout the model, and it will help you with the reassembly so that you know what each screw is for and what size it is. You don't want to force a larger screw into a small hole and then strip it, and then the model won't go back together again properly. So it helps to have a magnetic tip on your screwdriver as well. I'm not using that at the moment, which makes it a little bit harder. So these 8 screws are going to pull the whole floor assembly out of the model. And nearly all Hot Wheels models are exactly the same as this. The floor comes out very first thing you do. Some of those screws don't come out exactly. And basically once those screws are out, just remove the floor from the bottom of the model. And that's basically it. So this is that's all it took, the 8 screws to release that, and the whole back of the model, or the whole underside of the model, the interior pan, your engine assembly here, and also the rear bumper bar, which just comes off loose. That's actually, you can see the holes through here. You can see the holes through there. Those screws through the underside of the body go through this and hold it onto the back side of the metal body through those tabs. You can see those tabs there. So I'd say just put this aside for now. I'm probably going to do some repaint, so I will pull this interior pan out. There's just a couple of screws in the front here, and this whole section will come out. So as you can see, everything is screwed together with these Hot Wheels models, so it does make it quite a bit easier. We'll start with the back here. So we've got the engine lid, but we'll take that piece out anyway. So because these are a dogleg hinge, they have this little internal bracket which holds the dogleg hinges down to the underside of the body. So just take that bracket out, a couple of screws, and then the piece will come out as simply as that. So that's the rear engine lid removed. Now the doors, you can see those open up quite easily. There is just one screw, if we can show you there, this one here on either side. So if we just undo those screws, and that should release the whole door assembly. As you can see there. So that's it, that's the door assembly removed. So just keep that little screw in there for now, or take that out and put it in a box. I prefer just to keep that little screw in place at the moment. So that's one door, and then we can do the same with the other door. So just be careful, if the screw feels a bit too tight and it doesn't want to move, just actually tighten the screw first and then try and undo it, and that will usually break the seal of the screw. And that's it, that's the second door out. So as easy as that. And now the front compartment, or the dashboard, we'll take there's a couple of screws here, here and here. That's going to release the dashboard from memory, so we'll take those ones out. 2 screws. Now they have a little clamping bracket on there also, So just don't get those mixed up. And there's one more in the center there that I missed. Now that's very, very tight, that one, so just be careful that you don't strip the thread. It was a very tight screw, that one. So that will come out. Just had to release that with a bit of pressure, and the dashboard slips out from underneath the metal. So just save that because we're going to reuse the dashboard as well. Put those in there. One little screw in there we go. Dashboard. Now this little piece here, as Hot Wheels does with a lot of things, they melt them onto the pins. So not sure whether you can see that here, but this inner part here is melted on here, and it's melted on here. Now sometimes you can pry these parts out like that. Just be a little bit careful. And there we go. So as you can see, the underside there has, they do this a lot, Hot Wheels, so the part underneath the hood here actually has a plastic pin that runs through it. Then this part, they push that in and let the pin protrude through it, and then they melt the end of the pin, which actually holds these two parts together. So pretty easy to pry that apart, and we want to save that piece as well. We're basically saving all the parts. Don't throw anything away of this Hot Wheels model yet, because we are going to use a lot of it. So we want to hold on to that. And then as you can see from here, the dog legs of the hood or the bonnet, depending what country you're from, are loose, but they're held in by this under the hood surround, this black plastic part here. So to release that from the model, this is another thing Hot Wheels do. So there's holes in the die-cast body. There's plastic pins on the plastic part which protrude through the metal part, and then they squish with heat and they melt the ends of those plastic pins. Now that's what holds this plastic part into the metal body. Now what I do, you could try and use a knife and get it in on an angle and cut these little pins off, but I prefer to use my Dremel. So I'm just using just a standard 3000 series Dremel, and I actually have the extension arm on it, which makes it a lot easier to use. And what I'm using is a little circular milling head. So you can get those from anywhere that stocks Dremel tools and Dremel parts, and this is perfect for getting into tight little places and just to easily and quickly trim off those pressed plastic heads. So I'm just basically going to use the Dremel here and just run it over those melted plastic heads, and then that should release the part. So we'll just give that a go now. Don't need a lot of speed on the Dremel for this. Okay, so that's that part, and then you can just basically push it out through the front. And as you can see there, that's actually the little heads that we've just ground off through the plastic. And we're going to save that piece as well. Now the hood will actually just come out, straight out like that. And now the front window is the next part. So what Hot Wheels do is they put a small bead of hot glue all around the outside of the window. And this is pretty much true with all of their models. I've pulled a lot apart over the years, and they're all basically the same. So this is where the X-Acto knife comes in. So I've got a number 11 blade, I think it is. It's the pointed blade. And what you want to do, you want to start from the sides, and you want to basically get that onto the inside of the frame. Be careful not to scratch the window, and just basically run it through. Now there wasn't much glue on that. That started to open up already. I'm not sure whether you can see that on camera. But just run that all the way through. Do that on the other side as well. Well, that's not even glued in there very well at all. So you can see that. Hopefully you can see that I'm opening the window up with my blade there. I run that all the way through. Get that through the top. Now that's actually released the sides. You can see me pushing the window out there. Now once you've done that, I put my finger up in the corner, and you can see the window is starting to separate from the corner there. So I'll actually just put my blade in through there and not force it. It's going pretty well, so just run your knife all the way through there. A little bit more glue in the center. I'll just sit the body down to do that. That's quite strong in the middle, so I'll start from the other side. Yeah, so there seems to be a little bit more glue in the center there, where that rear vision mirror is. So there we go. So I've just put a finger either side from the inside on the window and just push that up, and that's pretty much released the window down across the top, down both sides. And I'll just use my fingers here and just press my fingers against the inside and the outside of the window, so that I'm sort of controlling the deformation of the screen, because you don't want to crack the screen, otherwise you'll have to buy a whole nother model for that, and you don't want to do that. So just work that around. A little bit stiff there, so I'm just going to put my X-Acto knife in there and run it around. Now there wasn't too much glue on this window. As you can see, before I pull that off, you can probably see the strands of glue here all the way around. So that's the hot glue. It's a tiny little bead of glue that they use, like spider webs. And that's basically the easiest and safest way to get these windows out. Now, I put that in a nice safe place because you don't want to scratch the window, and I don't want to handle that until it's ready to put back in the finished model. So I'll put that in its own little separate compartment in my box, and I'll assemble the whole model, give that a bit of a clean up. You can see the excess glue on there. That will basically come off with your fingernail. It's not on there super strong. It's not like super glue. And that's the front window. So now you can see we're getting to the point where there's not much left on this Hot Wheels model that we need. So obviously the headlights are the next part. Now these headlights are actually made up of three pieces. You've got your clear lens on the top, and the grey inner section is actually made out of two parts. There's a join through the middle. So what I've done with my other models is just try and pull these all out in one piece. And then that saves having to re-glue on the clear lens onto the inner part when your model is finished. Now again, Hot Wheels, they love these pin and press fittings, so that you've got a little pin here, and there is another one here in between these two metal lugs. So what we want to do is we want to just grind the top of those melted lugs off, like we did with the bonnet surround. And then we'll be able to use my modified tool here to actually push the headlight out through the front. So what we'll do, we'll use the Dremel here, and we'll basically grind those little melted heads off now. Not too much plastic on there on those melted heads. And what I've got this tool for, as I said, this is a woodworking tool called an awl. That's an AWL, awl. And I've hit it on the concrete a couple of times just because they are quite pointed. So I've really taken the sharp point off it, but it's still quite pointy at the front. And I basically use that to get into these holes. And what I do is I work a little bit on the back hole, and then a little bit on the front hole, and just sort of turn it a little bit. I'm trying to work the headlight part out. Now these are also hot glued in. Hotwheels loves the hot glue. And you can see here the headlight starting to come out. So I work a little bit at the back and then a little bit at the front. I don't want to push it all out at the back because it may break the whole light assembly in half, and I don't want to do that. So that's pretty much released it from the glue, and now I'll use my small flat blade screwdriver and actually put the screwdriver in between the metal body and the headlight and just twist it. Just twist it to work it free, and there we have it. So there's the headlight out of the 4.5 Italia Spider. The two halves of the inner half, the grey parts, are still intact, and it still has the lens which is hot glued on as well from the factory, from Hot Wheels. Now I just prefer to do it that way because then I don't have to glue these pieces back together, and it saves the hassle of trying to re-glue the lens on. Whenever you're gluing clear parts like that, there's always a risk that you get glue drops on them and things like that. So that is how I remove the headlights. So we'll do that to the other side as well. So just work the tool into the hole. You do have to put a little bit of pressure on there, but you don't want to put too much pressure that you can feel it sort of piercing the part or going to break the part. So that one, the front was a little bit easier, and the back's, oh, there we go. It's just started to come loose then. So again, just with your flat bladed screwdriver, just get that in between the metal and the plastic headlight. And there you go. There's your second little headlight out of the model. We have a rear vision mirror here. We need to take that out as well, so that's just a small piece. We may have to, that's glued in there also, so we'll just have to wiggle that and try and get that out. The other part is this part here on the body. So this is the part of the interior, but also the side covers of where the retractable roof goes in there. This is actually the same thing as before, so we've got melted plastic lugs in the back here. So again, we'll use the Dremel and we'll grind those out. Should be enough. And then that part will also just come out, and that actually holds, as you can see there, it holds the little rear window, which is pretty much in its down position, but it also has the fabric seat belts which just go through a little slot, and again they're just hot glued on the back there as well. So if you want to put the seat belts back into your model, you want to save this part as well. So that's that part. So as you can see, the model is getting quite stripped. Now they do have little sill plates here, the little Ferrari sill plates here, the silver ones here. They just have two tabs which press through the die cast. So you can see here again, melted plastic tabs onto the body. That's what holds that part in. So again, we'll use the Dremel. So that's the Dremel, and I'll use my tool again, my awl. Maybe I'll get that out, either that or a flat bladed screwdriver. Well, they're actually in there quite good, so I'm going to try my X-Acto knife. Obviously a little bit of hot glue under them as well. and the rest of it a bit of wiggle with the finger, and we'll get that out, and there you go. So that's one of your sills out of one side, and we'll do the same with the other. We'll just use the X-Acto knife, put that underneath it, just draw it along. Careful of your fingers because these X-Acto knives are very sharp if you're new to using them. And there we go. There's the second little sill out, so we'll keep that as well. Now we've got the tail lights in the back, so these also are actually hot glued. There's a metal circular piece underneath there. They put a little hot glue on there and then just stick the tail light on. So usually you can just use a bit of pressure with your finger from underneath, and you can actually lever them forward. This one's being a little bit stubborn, so I'm just putting my flat screwdriver at the bottom of it and forcing it up. And it's on there pretty good, this one. So you just got to be a little bit careful with these that you don't damage the plastic part, because that will detract from the finished model. Yeah, it's definitely in there pretty good. So you just want to just continue to work these tail lights up. They will come off, just be patient. It just depends on who assembled the model and how much glue they put on there. So I'll keep working that. Okay, so what I forgot to mention with this one, there is actually a little bit of a tab on the inside of that also. So again, with the Dremel, and we just grind that little tab off on the underside there. And again, we'll try and push that through with my tool. Anyway, we'll get to that. So yeah, I've basically got this side out. It was quite stiff. I had to work it with a knife a little bit, and also with my fingers, and get a little bit of a screwdriver in there. I didn't damage it, which was lucky, but you can see there was quite a bit of hot glue on that one. So right around the base of the light, the top of the light. Now just be careful that this little clear piece in the end is a separate piece that inserts from the rear, and that's what sleeves over this silver reflector that's there. So when that goes back on there, that's the silver reflector you can see through, and that little clear piece is a separate piece. So just watch that you don't lose that piece. Now we do want to keep this little silver reflector piece as well, so I'll just use the X-Acto knife for that one and just cut it off. I think that is going to be the best way. There we go. So when that goes inside the tail light, it looks like it did before. So there you go. So that's the tail lights are made up of three pieces. You've got the outer red section, the clear little lens in there, and then you've got that silver reflector in there from behind also. So yeah, we're just going to try and work this tail light out. There's quite a bit of glue on this one. Other Hot Wheels models that I've actually disassembled, these were incredibly easy to pull apart, and I think this one is going to come out a lot easier. So there we go, that's come off. There's the little plastic lens here which goes in the end. So that goes in the end there, so that's your tail light part. And we also want to cut off that silver reflector. And there we have it. So silver reflector off, and that is your other tail light. So put those aside, don't lose those. So that, my friends, is everything removed from the Hot Wheels Elite 458 Spider. So look, I hope you enjoyed this video today, and I hope it was informative. As I say, you can use this video if you just want to repaint a Hot Wheels Elite model car that you have. as you can see, they're pretty easy to pull apart compared to some model cars. You don't need a lot of tools to do it. You know, and in this case you could just strip the paint off this and you could repaint it any color you wanted and then put it back together again, and then that way you'd have a very unique model. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do. Please smash the like button if you like this video. Also, don't forget to click your notification button so you get all the current videos. And I look forward to moving on to part 3 of this awesome Liberty Walk build. So until next time, thanks for watching Rob's Model Cars.